Good night.
Ooh.
Welcome, folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions Committee. It is Thursday, January 8th. And we're going to hear the bill sponsors from a couple of bills. We have 540 that we're going to hear from Representative Dolan. And then we are going to have 549. Are you doing that, Troy, or are you doing?
All set. I'm doing both.
You're doing both. Okay. Well, let's start with Eric.
Second.
That's right, 549 and 559. Karen, welcome. Karen used to be a member of this committee when she was a
Yay.
freshman, for better or for worse.
Wow.
You was the clerk of the committee, right?
Yes. Yes, so
It was a different dynamic back then, that committee.
different can be good, different can be good. Welcome, everybody, Karen Dolan. And so, yes, so sharing about H 540. And I think some folks were on the committee, I think it was 2 years ago when this kind of started. 2 years ago, I introduced a bill that was all about revamping restorative justice in Vermont. And it was kind of multiple pieces of it. It was pre-charge restorative justice and post-charge. And basically what it came down to is we focused all of our attention on the pre-charge piece of it and ended up passing legislation that's now being implemented, going into effect. It seemed like there just wasn't enough time to also do the post-charge side of it. And so what was done is that there was a work group that was established to look at the post-charge restorative justice piece and come up with recommendations for the committee to look at. So that's really what this bill is that the committee, and you may have already received the report, they submitted a report in November. I think there were some updates along the way too. And that is with Judge Zone, Derek Miodovnik from DOC. There are many community justice centers that were a part of it. And they came up with proposed language, which is what you see in H 540. I did not add any special touches or anything like that. It was more of seeing that there was a need. For folks who may or may not be aware, this language has been around for a while. So I should also share that my job when I'm not here is I work for the Essex Community Justice Center. So have been in the world of restorative justice work. And ultimately, the statutes aren't in line with what current practice is. And there's also room for us to just make it more clear so it's consistent around the state. That's one of the things. How restorative justice has come to be is it's like something changes here, we do things here, we do things here. And the goal was, can we have something that's consistent for the whole entire state to follow? And that's the same thing that we tried to do with the pre-charge diversion. So that's what these recommendations are doing, is trying to create clear and consistent goals for how restorative justice will be used in post-charge.
Yes.
Troy.
Are we the only committee that's seen this? Is this going to land with you all as well?
Well, I was realizing that there is a sentencing piece of it, so I don't know if we would see it too, but I would leave it for chair. Okay. The chairs to decide. It's hard to, because I'm like, this all sounds great, wonderful, so.
That's pretty good. Are the state's attorneys been in part of this process?
Let me see if they were on the,
What was that, Joe? I'm sorry.
It's curious if the state's attorneys have been.
Well, who said, I'm trying to think, is this the working group that language came out of us here to come back with recommendations on how it could be, the community justice centers basically could be more unified statewide?
yeah, that's what it is, but state's attorneys were not part of this working group. It was Judge Zone and Department of Corrections. So you may want to hear what their takes are on this, because one of the things is on the sentencing is that sentencing, and I guess that would be more judiciary, is that it could be a referral straight to a community justice center. Right now you have to be on probation along with it, but sometimes the case doesn't make sense, that you also need to be on probation. It's no, you need to participate successfully in a restorative justice process, and that's it. You don't need probation with it. So it is giving out a new alternative, and so I think it would be good to get that input. Whether it's your committee or comes to judiciary.
Well, the first part for sentencing is on Title 13. But then when you get into restorative justice program, it's established within Title 28, which is established within DOC.
Get to work together.
So we'll be working together. Sean?
Representative Donlin.
Conlon,
Saying
Wow.
no. Apologize. What? Can you just go over, like, I know what reparative program is. I kind of know it. Can you tell me so what's important about this post thing?
yeah, so a restorative justice process can be used at any point in any type of conflict, really, even before
Okay.
conflict. But the goal is that you are bringing together the voices of whoever's involved, in this case, a crime. So it is the offender, the victim, it could be community members, and it's having a conversation about what happened, who was affected, what needs to be done to repair the harm, what needs to be done to make sure that this type of harm doesn't happen again. And it's coming up collectively with an agreement of what the responsible party needs to do. And then having maybe follow-up meetings, but having a meeting to close it out and see, did that person do all the things that they need to do? And is there agreement that it's successfully closed?
And does this kind of avoid sometimes going into the legal process?
Yes, so that is the piece where there's the pre-charge, which is what we spent a lot of time on 2 years ago and reworked that for the whole state. I was maybe ambitious and wanted to do post-charge at the same time, but then that got to a work group and now we have the recommendations from them.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's all. That's helpful. Thank you.
So it's with your local CJCs,
Yep.
community justice centers.
And one of the things that we changed, again, in the original legislation from 2 years ago, is making it very clear that pre-charge cases go through the Attorney General's office, and that DOC does post-charge, created very clear lanes for that, which wasn't the case before that legislation.
Is it just for money, but also programs?
Also programs, yes.
Because the money used to come from DOC. So the history for these community justice centers or restorative justice, they kind of get intertwined. They're used together. Came about in the mid to late 90s. Well, maybe not even late 90s. It came about in the mid 90s with the former Commissioner of Corrections, John Gorchak. And we were in a situation where our population of incarcerated folks was increasing and we were building facilities. In the early 90s, we built the work camp in St. Jay, 100 beds for the work camp. And at the same time, we built the Newport facility. At that time, it was like 150 beds for that. And we were also knew we were going to build, because one of the facilities in Woodstock, which was a regional facility, our lease was coming up. So we knew we'd be building a facility in southern Vermont of about 300 to 350 beds. And what was also starting to happen at the time is when we started contracting out for out-of-state beds. So there were a lot of pressures on our correctional facility in Chittenden. In the Chittenden facility, I mean, we were 200 people at the Chittenden facility. I mean, they were sleeping in everywhere, and that's when it was a male facility.
Triple bunks.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty bad. And John Gorchak, who's commissioner of DOC at the time, says, we can't keep doing this. We can't build ourselves out of this. And we can't afford to build ourselves out of it. So he started looking at who was taking up the beds in our correctional facility. And he and another person in DOC did a lot of work data collecting, and came up and said, why are we spending, at that point, it was like 50,000 a year, 40 or 50,000 a year, to house folks in a hard bed who have a low risk to reoffend and a low to moderate severity of crime. Why are we housing these folks? We should be keeping our beds for those folks who have a high risk to reoffend and a moderate to high severity of crime.
Yeah.
That's what we should be doing. So he's the one that started instigating this shift. And then he said, for the folks who are really low risk and low severity in crime, we need to hold them accountable through the community that they harmed and repair the harm. And that's when these justice centers, he started proposing these justice centers. And I think the first one started in Lamoille County. And I don't know where it went from there, but he said if we could have the community folks address the person who committed the crime and the victim there together, to bring them together and repair the damage that was done and not use a hard bed to incarcerate the person, because we're not getting the results from incarcerating the person. The person needs to take ownership of the behavior and of the criminal activity. So that's why the money started coming from DOC. And that was in the late 90s. And these community justice centers started to develop from that. And the funding just all came through DOC from their budget for these justice centers. And then over time, it's just grown.
And each county kind of did their own flavor of this and added pre-charge, and we're going to do ours this way, which is all great. And as it grew, it was just clear that it's access, right? It's like, well, how come they get that and we don't get that? And so that's what the legislation is. How do we make this? Because it's great that you've all grown and developed your new things, but now that it's statewide, let's make things consistent across each county. So it's not, you do something in one county and you might be seeing different circumstances in the different county.
It clarified the stream of funding.
Yes, that was a big
That
piece
was
of
big,
it.
too. It's clarified the stream of funding.
Yep.
So this was all an initiative from corrections. How many years ago you want to go back? 30 years ago, who knows? To really deal with overcrowding in our facilities and to not have so many people out of state. I mean, we were at a point in the late 90s and early 2000s, we had 700 folks out of state in our out of state beds down in, I think it was in Kentucky at that point. 700 folks.
700.
Yes.
We're at 700. Kevin?
Have we ever had, somebody must have statistics of the state population versus these numbers. I would love to see that with the restorative justice, it drops down because
Our state population has increased, our incarcerated population has decreased because we've put in justice reinvestment initiatives over time. So our incarceration back in, was this justice reinvestment 2, maybe? The projection for us back then, that was over 10 years ago, The projection, if we had no initiatives in place, we were going to have over 2,300 people incarcerated. And we put in a lot of initiatives and it avoided a lot of folks being incarcerated.
Right.
Then COVID is an anomaly. I wouldn't even look at COVID.
The numbers on those COSA programs are especially staggering for reducing reoffense. Definitely we should hear more, but last biennium, we heard a lot about that.
The closest
That's why you pair somebody with like 3 community members and really check in. It's
circle of support and accountability. And that's through our community ties. So if we didn't put any of this in place, I mean, our population would probably incarcerated be over 3,000.
The other
Because
thing
we were incarcerating low risk folks to reoffend and low severity. That's what we were doing.
The other thing I will share is that we see in the community justice centers is that maybe not so much with these cases because the person still goes through a court process, right? a lot of the cases that I've worked with are pre-charge, and it is a way for folks to deal with it before they go. But even in the cases where it's gone through court, I can remember a case, person went through court and the victim, the person went to jail for a little bit, but also part of his sentence was to participate in a post-charge restorative justice. Maybe we can even get them to come in as witnesses or something to talk to you. But the victim was a woman and she shared like, that's what she needed to fully heal and move forward on that, is to be able, like, in the moment she needed that punishment and going through the process and doing that, but then she really needed to be able to be face to face and have a conversation and have the person understand, this is what your actions did. This is how it affected my life. This is where I'm at now. And, but also to hear from him and his story. And that doesn't happen in court at all. There's no talking to each other and going that. So,
We heard from
yeah.
a former representative who went through the pre-charge program as an impacted person in 24. We did a joint meeting with, I think, you guys
Yeah.
this year. Similar story.
Yeah.
How much resolution she got out of that.
Yeah. So some folks think of like this is adding on to it, but I just say like it is a whole different thing. It doesn't have to be an either or. I think there can be times when maybe that's the only sentence somebody needs is participating in a process, but it can also be that you go through the whole process, maybe even have jail time, but you still have this. And the other thing to know is that we don't force it to happen. And you'll read in the bill, like there's certain criteria, like parties have to be willing to come to the table, take accountability. We do screening. So it's not forcing what will actually make things worse. It's hopefully making something that will help people heal.
It's tough on the victim too. The victim really has to be a part of this. And sometimes victims just don't want to be because it's too painful. And then other times it brings closure and healing. So it's so individualized. So this is just a tool to really help with our corrections population and really help people rehab. And these are not going to be your more serious felony crimes necessarily. I mean, there's a screening process that each justice center goes through. So not every person is a good candidate for that. Other questions? So Karen, you know the drill that we do in this committee.
Later.
Yeah, we talk to the members and see if they're interested in doing further work. And if people are, then we'll have the draftsperson come in and walk us through it. And then we can reach out to you who we shouldn't have come in and testify. Go from there. But I want to get a feel of the committee, what people are interested in.
The only last little pitch I'll put out there is that it isn't just from, like, it is coming from this report and this group with it. So not a me bill, it's just getting it out there for that report.
They need a sponsor.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Donnelly? You don't have to get up in the hot seat, but you really want to.
I know you. You'll get me back. I know.
Seriously, if I'm sitting here.
Harder, Jen.
Rip Hendrick, welcome.
Hey.
Wow. You're in the woods. You're shrunk. So while this is fresh in people's minds, are folks interested in working further?
I'm absolutely on that.
Yeah, we spent a lot of work on it like last biennium, so it'd be good
Yeah.
to.
I think that's right. I mean,
It sounds more like it's a housekeeping to mirror reality, Bill.
Maybe.
Yeah, so
I mean, never know.
quick work.
Quick work.
2 days.
Tape. So we'll need to schedule Michelle Childs to give us a walkthrough on this. And also if you could find that report and post it to our webpage.
I'd like to hear from state's attorneys though, especially if they haven't been part of the process.
We just gotta figure out, well, we'll deal with that, but we gotta get Michelle in first.
Which one are you starting?
549 representative.
Okay, so.
It's not my name, but our picture came down.
I know. What's that all about?
Yeah, sure. What happened to the picture with our names?
We have to.
Oh, it's because I had Phil's name.
That's right. That's
I thought maybe Sweeney.
I think 549 is a no-brainer too.
I haven't even introduced it.
I'm just telling you.
Did you say Troy has no brain? That's not nice.
Yes. Okay, Troy, if you could introduce yourself for the record.
Be happy to, Madam Chair. Frederick, state representative from Burlington, Vermont. Let's start with 549. 549 is a fairly simple, not a lot of complications to this. Right now, we give a 9 driver's ID to folks as they are departing from our correctional facilities. Right now, statute requires that those folks have to have been sentenced. This expands that to folks who have been detained for at least 6 months. That's really the gist of the bill. I think this allows us to do 2 things. We have been learning within the committee sort of the blurred line that exists between our long-term detainees and the sentenced population, many of whom are going to be requiring identical services to the folks who have been sentenced. We've talked about it with regard to MOUD and continuity of care. This is another example of how that line is further blurred. The other thing I think it helps us to do, I think the program itself warrants some deeper looks as well. I'm not convinced that the program is working as statute intends, meaning I think we can clean it up a little bit. And I'd like to use this opportunity to put some testimony as to whether or not we are doing what we suggested we should be doing with this program. So
The ID program?
yeah. The ID program in general, and then the expansion of it to detainees. That's the bill.
Okay.
I have a question. So, is there something, I haven't read it yet. So, but is there something in here? So if, I realize you put in a minimum of 6 months, but as we've learned, or you guys already knew, but we learned last year, some of us newer people, that you go to court, they go, hey, by the way, you're done.
Right.
So how can they get that non-driver's license that quick? Is there something built into here?
I think we have to talk, that's something we have to talk, it's not in the bill right now that automatically corrects for that or accommodates that. That's one of the things that I think we can benefit from discussing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 6 months is there for sentenced folks. So for sentenced, but currently a sentenced person is, can get a non-driver's ID as well. They can also get a driver's
Yes.
ID if they pay for it. But they would have had to have been incarcerated in prison for 6 months or more. And that would be a person who's sentenced. So their detainee time would not calculate into that.
Is that a question or a statement?
I think I'm not sure which. I think it's a statement.
That's what I remember too.
Yeah, it's a sentence. It says, current law says an individual sentenced to serve a period of imprisonment of 6 months. So you have to have been sentenced and you serve 6 months, and then you can get a non-driver's ID. So this came at a request of some folks in P&P, probation and parole, in that they were saying if we could just do the detainees, for detainees who have been there for minimum, for 6 months, if they can get an ID, that would really help when they are released for that. Because they could be released on probation. And then they don't have any ID, but the P&P office is supervising. So they said it would be very, very helpful. So Kevin, you have a big question mark on your face.
How about if you're not incarcerated? What if you don't have a non-driver's ID? How do you get a non-driver's ID if you don't have you're not traveling, you don't have your,
You go to DMV.
well, yeah.
Non-drivers.
What if you don't have a driver's license? I mean, what do people do if they don't have
They
an
have a
ID?
non-driver's
So they
ID.
buy one themselves.
Yeah.
And what's that cost?
I forgot what it costs.
Minimal.
It's very minimal. It's through DMV. You need to have proof of identity.
Well,
It's
it's
a-
$29.
So that's for folks who want to purchase.
Purchase a driver's
Reinstated.
license.
Okay, gotcha.
So my guess is that it's less than.
It's less than that.
It's a
DOC
guess. I don't know.
DOC and DMV worked up an agreement that it's paid for by the state for that non-driver's ID for folks who are sentenced. If an average citizen needs a non-driver's ID, you go down to DMV, you have to have some ID for it. I don't, it doesn't cost very much. So
24.
Yeah, so.
for
I
a
mean,
non-driver's
Yeah,
ID,
yeah.
So I guess my point is so we give them $24 so they can get a non-driver's ID. I mean, everybody ought to have an ID is what we're really saying.
Well, they need it upon release, oftentimes for identification for getting prescriptions filled, identification for getting housing, identification for, you need it immediately.
But everybody needs that, whether you've been incarcerated or not. Why shouldn't everybody have an
that's
ID like
what
this?
the law is saying, that folks who are incarcerated for at least, who are sentenced and have served 6 months or can have a non-driver's ID.
It's already in
It's
statute.
already in law. What we're extending this to is for detainees.
Oh, okay. I missed that part. That's already, okay.
And the testimony we heard, and I
Very
mean, I've heard it, it's that like week when you're first out is so fragile, and it's just gonna take going to the drugstore, not being able to get the meds you got, that you go buy something, or, you
I
know,
went
like,
through the seminar last year. It was
Yeah.
painful.
It's
Right,
You don't have an
right.
ID, so you can't get this, yeah. No,
Everything,
To
yeah.
get an ID, DMV has to work with the feds because there are requirements for the real ID in the
Mhm.
federal. So DMV has to really work with that. Wanda Manoli was commissioner of DMV when we updated the law for folks who are sentenced for real IDs. Not last session, the session before. And we spent a lot of time with Commissioner or whatever, Wanda Manoli, because she was commissioner of DMV. DOC, it's very, very complicated. It's not something you just automatically can do. You've got to, the person who's incarcerated has to work with DMV. But DOC is the linkage there. Really complicated. So,
I'm kind of probably in Kevin's lane here, but my question is, and I'm totally on board with this. If anyone gets picked up by the police and gets brought to a correctional facility and
Okay.
does not have an ID, why aren't they getting one provided for them?
because they're detainees. They're not sentenced.
I don't-
Police officers,
I don't care if they're just detainees.
because they could be there for 3 days.
And that's exactly. I
But-
still want them to get an ID.
Well, it might be.
We talked about that, we checked with the bill representative.
Because all I'm saying is that like, going through that process last year, like not having ID was such a barrier. And if you're a mess and if you're going to a correctional facility, whether you're detained or sentenced or whatever, things aren't good for the most part in your life. So I just think that we should be working hard to get that person an ID, no?
But maybe,
What am I missing?
well, I was gonna say, maybe I'm on a different understanding of this, but just because they're picked up and detained, they may have an ID at their
Fine.
house or somewhere else. So why
Sure.
would you go through the process of recreating an ID?
Well, if they have
when
one,
there's one
fine.
already in?
I'm just saying if they don't have one.
But how are you gonna
I know.
know for sure? Then you gotta work with DMV
Oh,
to see if they have
we're
some
here.
record.
and then I'm sure this is where Alice and I.
Right, I gotcha.
And this is where I feel like Alice and I may be saying the same thing, but logistically, you have people coming in and out that are short-term detainees. It's the same thing I was talking about with relation to H-32.
Yep.
How can you ensure that when someone comes in for such a potentially short period of time?
Right.
But I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Oh,
To protect those who would provide services to anyone. Why doesn't it make sense that anybody that's over 15 gets one of these issued? And if you don't have this card, I don't have to rent you an apartment because I don't know it's really you.
Benefits.
I'm going the other way around.
People's lives.
This protects society.
No problem here.
Maybe some of them-
Keep them there.
19.
Well, they should though. If, why should you be able to just lie to me that your name is Patty Emmons instead of Allison?
Why do we force them people to do this?
Because it's protection of the people you're trying to do business.
Joe Troy.
So I'm for this. But it's just an added bonus. Might as well get incarcerated so I can.
Something wrong with this guy. Winner. It's.
We're going down.
Okay, sorry, Kevin, I'm not a big government guy like you.
Guy.
Any worse?
Sure.
Well.
I see that can be problematic if someone already has an ID. I'm just trying to get
Well,
everyone to have
You'd
ID.
have to work with DMV. I mean, DOC doesn't have a clue.
No.
They're based on what the person volunteers, but
I'm
DOC
hearing
would have to come.
Your appetite to take up this bill and continue conversation.
They want voter ID.
This is.
Should take it up.
Fill out 549.
Absolutely, we should take it.
Make a motion.
Yeah.
Second the motion, Mary.
Oh, no, yeah, next is.
One more question, then I'll.
That's what I see.
Am I correct
Yes.
that if an individual is charged with a felony, they are then prohibited from voting?
They are allowed.
Vote.
Vermont incarcerated individuals, just like Maine, are allowed to vote
Yep.
regardless of their.
Conviction.
What's that got to do with 549 though?
Well, I'm just asking.
He wants ID so they know.
There's no ID check to vote.
No.
Actually,
Sean's advocating.
Legal to ask somebody for this.
Okay.
You have a bill for ID to vote?
Madam Chair, I made a motion.
It's a government app bill.
Take this up.
And I.
Yes, Sean.
So- What I would
Joe's
do,
ready to go.
Oh, class.
maybe Michelle could quickly, I don't know if Michelle needs to quickly touch base on this. I think it's pretty self-explanatory when you look on page 7, what it does. But it might be good for Michelle to give an overview of what the current statute is. Or maybe Hillary ends up doing it, but I think it would be real important for Budget Council to go through what current statute is for this. Because
Will this have to do a drive-by approach? Because where's the money coming?
It's coming from within the budget of DOC or DMV, because it's automatic, it might, but there's nothing that indicates. I can't remember, did we have to go through approach?
Oh, we did.
We might, because it's internal to the department's budget.
There's kind of a number of how many.
Someplace.
It's a fee of $29, so.
Maybe we could look at the
Go to Ways and
commissions.
There you go.
And they may have an estimate.
I'm kinda joking.
You put that on the machine.
So it's the person that pays the fees, that would go through. So if we could have Michelle or whomever go through the current law, because I think
Identification.
people need to know the current law, and we also need.
Free bath.
We also need here percentage.
Much fun.
Yeah, we're
And we also need motor vehicles.
Here.
Now, if you really
It's a bill,
want to
Barry.
find out who to get from the department.
Introduce a bill, you can-
vehicles, it might be the commissioner.
Is it just you?
Might want to talk to Wanda Benoli, because she was commissioner of DMV, and she's the one who helped us with this law. She could maybe help figure out who from DMV should be in the room. Okay?
Okay.
That will bring some.
Thank you, committee.
That'll bring some fireworks.
Yeah, very generous conversation.
Robust.
Switching gears to 550, this is gonna, this one's got a little more to it. I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about the origin story on this and the genesis of this. So this occurred, it was shortly after session last year. So this past summer, I got an email from a woman named Kalani Gagne, trans-identified woman who had been incarcerated within our system for, I think, 16 years. And if you decide to pursue this, I want to let her tell her story. So I'm not going to go into a lot of depth, but I want to talk about why she brought this to me. Again, Kalani is a trans-identified woman. That aside, she spent the majority of her sentence, and again, I think it was 15 or 16 years in our men's facilities, including our out-of-state facilities. She has a lot to say. She would be an amazing witness regardless of whether or not we take up this bill, because she could talk at great length about what that was like for her, and specifically what that was like for her in Mississippi. She's lived in a few of our out-of-state facilities, not just Mississippi. Anyway, she, for the year prior to her release, they brought her back to Vermont, and she was housed at CRCF, the women's facility. Kalani has significant concerns about the healthcare we provide to trans-identified inmates, whether that's mental health services, medical services, and she thinks that we could do a much better job at making sure that our trans inmates are better serviced from a medical perspective. That's not anything we've heard from WellPath, so that would be some interesting testimony as well. That's all in the bill. There's things in here that I know we would have to add to the bill if we want to do due diligence to Kalani's request. The second component of this, which isn't really in the bill yet, but I want to bring it to the table because I want to be transparent about what I think needs to happen. This would require a little more conversation. Kalani also has, this is hard for me, this is complex for me, because for me, and it's, the language is in here a little bit. The other thing that happened is Ben was writing this, and then Ben handed it off to Michelle. So as all of that was happening, it got to the point of meeting the deadline. So I know there's things in here that Kalani would want. There's things missing in here that Kalani would want in here, and it just didn't make the deadline. So I submitted it. This is the complexity for me. For me, when people tell me that they are transitioning, I believe them. I philosophically know that gender is a construct, and that not everybody identifies a binary, right? There's a continuum of gender. So for when people tell me this is who I am, this is how I want to be known, these are my pronouns, this is my name, I believe them, I respect them, and I use that. So for me, trans women are women and should be housed with women. That's different in corrections. It's more complicated in corrections. And Kalani will tell you, and again, I want her to tell her story, I don't want to tell her on her behalf, that she's worried that people misuse that and misuse the ease of claiming identity merely for the sake of being housed in a different facility. This would be especially poignant if we had a new state-of-the-art women's facility, right? So that's where it gets complicated and complex. I had a brief conversation with Haley. They have a pretty robust policy already in place for what it would take to, there's a whole review process for people who identify as trans and they want that to have an impact on their housing. So I would want to hear more from DOC about that policy. I don't necessarily think we have to create statute, but we may want to make sure that statute requires the Department of Corrections to have a solid policy in place for that conversation about where people get housed based on their claimed identity. So it's a complex topic, and it's really in two parts. I think trans-specific care, we can create statute around. I think how we accommodate housing for trans-identified people is a bigger, deeper conversation. And there's a lot of people we will want to talk to. I'm interested very much in making sure that we do this right.
I know we've asked in previous testimony, how many of our incarcerated folks are trans, and I can't, is it around?
I don't know the numbers off the top of my
It's
head.
in the double digits.
Yeah, it's the low double
It's
digit.
Low double digits.
I think it's like 13,
15.
14
Yeah.
for that, and it's
Of
regardless.
the 1,600 and.
Yeah.
I used to Andrew Silver for the record,
From,
Rutland, or sorry, Rutland.
are you representing an organization?
No, I
or
just used-
yourself.
I just used to work for the DOC when I was there. I was 16 back in 2023.
You worked for
Yes, I was a
DOC
correctional officer.
in the Rutland facility?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Okay, and what years were that? You said,
23 to 24.
oh, all right, okay. So
Serendipitous.
if you have,
Yeah.
did you want to weigh in on this? Did you,
I mean, I could, I just had the number off.
what is the number?
It was 16,
It was
I
16?
believe, yeah,
2 years ago,
yeah.
a year ago.
System wide or just?
Yeah.
System wide, the majority of them are, at least by DOC policy now, if I remember correctly, the individual has the right to choose based on their identity, if they're at the female facility or at one of the men's.
And does DOC honor that usually?
From what I've seen, yes. Obviously, I was in a men's facility. I never interacted with any training. And to my knowledge, all of them at the time were up.
It's.
CRCF, yeah.
And again, Haley can talk about the policies, the vetting process that is currently in place, and then we would have a question about, is it robust enough?
I know we've talked on the surface of this a few times, but we haven't gotten to depth.
I'll keep it short because the ground's already been trod, but as I understood it, I don't recall if it was testimony here during a tour of the women's facility. But my understanding was current operating procedure is self-identification, and so that's what's happening, is what I understand.
I guess more statement on my end. The reason I, co-sponsored this bill was because I have a constituent that did healthcare work out of state, not in Vermont, for people that were incarcerated that were LGBTQ. I don't think it was trans specific. And so I just know that this is a topic we should be looking at. I had this conversation months ago. So when I saw it, I was like, it kind of reminded me of that conversation. And I'm sure there's a lot that we can do to modern facilities to better reflect that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this, I know very little this issue in corrections, haven't served on this committee, but I think it could be a catalyst to, talk about the issue overall there and then delve into some of these pieces. But I'd really love to hear from the witness that Troy said. I'd love to see what the DOC policy is. I think we should. It's
Brian?
I don't wish to hog, so I'll be fast. The issue that you raised at the end, call them bad actors or whatever, you sort of falsely identifying.
I would.
Okay, yeah, fair
I would say
enough.
that.
Okay. Claiming in a different way. Is there more to say about that now, or is that something that you're hoping comes out in testimony?
Yeah, it's a weird one for me to talk about, right? Because like I said, I believe people and I respect people but I can see how that could be manipulated.
Right.
And I know that the woman who began this process with me has a lot to say about that, and I don't want to speak on her behalf.
Right.
I think having her come in with people.
So for the committee, would that testimony from her be a good starting point
Yes.
yes.
to determine how we want to
Yeah.
proceed here?
I mean, DOC in current practice would be useful too, I think.
Right.
I don't know, what goes first.
I don't know which would go first. So maybe just hearing the testimony from her.
I think so, because it could open up questions we have for DOC afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And I know this may be a real uncomfortable topic for some folks here, and I respect that. But we will treat this as fairly as we do any other bill. And if we find that, this deals with corrections, see, issues aren't going to go away, and particularly when you get into overcrowding issues, population increasing, it's going to put more pressure. Joe, did you have your hand?
I would just suggest of the 4 bills we've looked at today, the other 3 seem to have a much more expedient path as far as what's required for testimony. So it would be good that they make their merry way, if they will, because this appears like it would require much more time. No disagreement. So it would be unfortunate if we ended up and we just ran out of runway in the session,
The other bills?
So the other bills, which seem, like that identification bill, I think seems.
I'll take more time than you think.
Well, everything takes more time here than I think, but I just, they seem like they have a clearer path to making it to the floor. in an expedient manner.
Are we thinking that this would potentially be a bill that we'd want to put in like a miscellaneous omnibus kind of thing? If that's
I
the
don't
path we
know,
want to-
that's way down the road.
That's way.
Way down the road, it's reading the tea leaves.
For the record, I just saw recent numbers from August 2024. There's 22
August of 24.
or 24. I apologize.
August 25.
Or August of 2024, there were 22. That was the latest I could find,
I see.
So
at
that's-
least very quickly.
So that's a year.
It's not insignificant.
Good job.
Yeah.
No,
That's-
it's,
And it's probably gone up since.
this population's gone up.
Yeah.
Yes. So would the committee be okay to bring her in and
Yes.
testify? So
Absolutely.
if you could get.
I'll reach out first, Kate, and then I'll let you know. Yeah.
Even before we do a walk through, well, I think it would be good. Yeah.
Are we doing your 559 or we already did that earlier? So
We
you're-
just did that.
No, this one.
Well,
Yeah, this, I didn't know.
so, I had a conversation with Hillary, you craftsperson, legal counsel. There's a whole chapter on the parole board and parole, Title 28. And if folks want some bedtime reading, go to Title 28 and go to starts 400 something. The whole chapter 7.
Better chapter 11.
It's chapter 7.
That's good.
You all.
And it starts with section 401 through 554. It talks about parole as a whole. And then, of course, there's the structure of the parole board, which is in that chapter as well. Hillary said to me she's going to be reading that whole chapter to understand how parole and the parole board works. So if folks want to do a deeper dive, and you got to understand the language, folks. Spend some time reading it. Spend some time reading it because it'll give you some background for that. So we've got 4 new bills that we're working on. I'm going to set up a time with Katie McLean.
Yeah, just email.
To go through page 32, have her look at the video that we had testimony with Dr. Euliger and the commissioner. And kind of, I really feel we need to update the statute for what's happening practice-wise.
Sorry, I didn't hear MOU.
To update the statute for what's happening with MOUD in our facilities. Because the statute is not, it
Doesn't match practice.
doesn't match practice.
There's all kinds of good lengthy discussion on that one.
Yes.
It's safe for another day.
So I'll ask the bad question. If in practice they're not following the law, what's the recourse?
We update the law because they've been doing this for a long,
We
unless you
update
want
the
to.
law because they're not following the law?
No,
It's not really possible.
Yes,
Well,
you heard that right
they
there.
have to provide that level of care and practice. It's more the practice, it's less the level of care. The problem that I think we've expressed in the committee is that we don't potentially want to see that new separate program with MOUD as it relates to, because there's stuff that's not in compliance with statute right now that they're doing, but there's no alternative for them to provide it. That's my understanding. I mean, am I off base on
We could
that?
do a couple hours on this one. That's not a good end of the day.
I think that was.
I know we all have feelings about medically assisted treatment. But we have established in our correctional system for 7 years, 7 or 8 years. Okay, so if folks want to repeal that, that's one conversation, but the reality of the situation is it's a program that's been in our correctional facilities for 7 or 8 years. And we, in order for them to continue in the form that they're doing it, as it has evolved over the years, the statute needs to be updated for that. That's where we're at. I mean, we can have a philosophical conversation, should we do the program to begin with, but that program has been in existence for 7 or 8 years.
I think that the difference is, and I think probably where some people issue with it is, so the doc says, we don't know if somebody's a detainee or sentenced. So we do it for everybody. Now, the one thing is to change the statute to say, okay, it's everybody. Or there's the other side, which I mean, and there's many sides, I'm sure, but the other side is, well, the DOC staff needs to let the medical people know, in fact, this is a detainee, they don't qualify for this. I don't see that as.
You're gonna have a
being-
lawsuit.
Well, so I was just getting to the part, I was like, I don't see that that's going to be your option, but I think that that's probably what some people are thinking.
You would have a lawsuit, for sure, I'm sure.
The first time.
No, I didn't figure it.
I mean, I'm gonna have that conversation with Katie. And I mean, there were things that they agreed that they need to look at the statute, particularly if they want to provide more of the support treatment. I don't think the statute incorporates that. And if we really feel that they need a more holistic approach to rehab folks, and DOC is willing to do this, are we gonna say to them no? Because if we don't update the statute, you know, they really will be in violation of law. I mean, that's reality, right?
That's why I asked the question.
We'll discuss that.
Yeah, that's the reality. That's why we put laws in place, and so that they're supposed to be compliant.
Right, and they're coming in with a new proposal that they haven't implemented yet.
Yeah.
Which then means in order for that to carry through our system.
Right.
You need to update the law. And that's why I asked them, I said, you're gonna need to update the law.
But that's a separate question about the new versus updating existing.
Well, we've got a, right now, and they've been doing this since really for a long time. It's medically necessary. Detainees and sentence folks are part of the MOUD program. The statute only refers to folks who are sentenced, and we tried to correct that last year.
Yeah.
To incorporate detainees. So, you know, I mean, and if they're gonna try to extend this pilot project of the court accountability, there will be detainees coming in at some point. They're not all gonna be sentenced. And if the governor, the administration wants to expand programs and services that are provided, the statute has to follow those initiatives.
So Alice, you want to speak with who?
Katie McClin.
And so you'll bring back. Well,
And I'll have her watch the video and see where we're at, but what changes would need to be. Because they basically asked for changes to the statute, correct?
Because you brought up the accountability docket, are we having the Defender General back? Is there a plan to do so? Because that just felt short.
Yeah, that was very.
We can. I think also if you do that, we should also have a conversation with him about his staffing struggles.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
but not tonight.
No. Tuesday is fine. Next week.
Hey, Michael.
Hi there.
Depending when he's back up here, but he's not always in Montpelier. So that's. So, tomorrow's Friday.
It's Friday. Also, first expense report day.
That's correct.
My whole weekend.
Are you really letting us out of here early tomorrow?
What time? Oh, good.
If you guys stop talking, we can leave early today.
Joint meeting.
No, yes, don't answer.
Terry,
What time?
after the floor,
Yeah,
it's in the pavilion.
Pavilion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
10:30, it's after,
Tenant
you
door.
can get room 10. 11 or whatever rooms are available down there. Which room is the committee room? Is that a committee room? 9?
No.
Or is it 10?
So, because 9 is appropriate.
Okay, so that's a committee room.
We're adjourning for the afternoon.
We're adjourning for the afternoon, and then tomorrow is just the joint meeting. It is on sex trafficking tomorrow. And we've got a lieutenant from from our state police who has been working in for quite a few years on this particular issue and does all the investigations. And we'll be giving a presentation. It's happening across the state, and it's
Yep.
important for us to know about it.
Is it tied to proposed legislation or is this just
No,
informative?
it's really coming from me because in Springfield, we have what's called Project Action, which is a common, it's just the providers, social providers, any providers in the community with law enforcement, attorney, state's attorney, come together and really work at issues that are occurring in the community. It could be criminal activity, it could be behavioral activity to really divert folks from going through the criminal justice system. And we had a presentation from Lieutenant Steuben back in August or September.
Yep.
And it really was instigated by our PNP office then, because they're seeing this.
It's huge.
And it's sort of human trafficking, but it's sex trafficking.
Yes.
And he has worked on this and done the investigations, and he gave a great presentation, and I was sitting there going, legislators need to hear about this. So it's an information.
What room are we in?
We're in-
Pavilion 267.
So it's more of an information exercise, just to raise awareness of
Why,
what's going on.
why was it not done for all of the legislations?
It was hard enough just to get another committee
I'm sure.
interested.
Okay.
For that. They said, well, is there any legislation? I said, well, no, it's just to educate us.
Yeah. All right.
So then we're done at noon tomorrow.
Okay.
Then we'll figure out what we want to do for our Friday.